Welcome back here on SportsLine. Steve Lehman with you tonight. Our guest, Kevin Buffalino, the race director of the St. Jude Country Music Marathon this weekend. Chris Boyson of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and Tracy Sunland, the senior vice president of events at the competitor group, which puts on all these events around the world. 33? Is that what I heard during the break? 33 around the world, not just North America?
7 countries: Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom, Dublin, Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. of A.
Where did
looking to go elsewhere?
You guys might as well. Where did this start? How did the competitor group start the idea for doing these races all over the place?
Well, it started in 1998, actually in 1996, when we had this idea or challenge to create the first new major marathon in the world at that time, since the Los Angeles Marathon 13 years earlier. And it started in San Diego. The company then was called Elite Racing, and we had only one goal, which was to put on a new major marathon, one of them. Nobody had ever put on 2 marathons in a year, and nobody had ever put on events outside of where they lived. But we put on this event in San Diego, and a couple of record executives came out and ran, Norbert Nix and Royce Risser, and they said, "What are you doing putting on a musical event in San Diego? There's no music here. It should be in Nashville." I said, "Well, okay." And that's how it started, and that's really how it's gone from one city to the other. They're huge economic impact generating events. In some cases, as many as 90% of the people come from outside of the locality. The musical theme just seemed to hit a niche, and people come to participate, they come to have a great time. They take pictures with the bands along the way. They're not necessarily rushing through, though the folks up at the front certainly do. And one city begot another city, and they're still begetting.
It started in San Diego. That's still where your offices are. Was Nashville second?
Nashville was number 2. In 2000 was our first one. It takes us about 14 to 18 months lead time to create one.
And how many people did you have in year number 1? And we already said earlier in the show that now you're above 30,000.
It was just a marathon in year 1. We hadn't invented, and we really did invent the destination half marathon. And so there were 7,500 in year 1. And that was, at that time, the 4th largest inaugural running event in history.
Wow. Kevin, I think everybody knows the numbers because they see the stickers on the back of the cars, the 26.2 or the 13.1. But how has the implementation of the half marathon changed this sport?
Yeah, as Tracy said, it really started, the sport in general started as a marathon. And it really, the half marathon's kind of taken over at this point. So of those participants that we have this year, about 4,000 are marathoners, and over 22,000 are half marathoners. So just in terms of the breakdown, the half marathon's really taken over, and I just think it's a more accessible distance to a lot of people. It's easier to recover from, it's easier to train for, but it's still, a huge test all the same. So it's definitely a goal that a lot of people have. But it's definitely changed the sport for sure.
It's a grind to run any distance of that level. But this is also a party. From being out there and working it. I haven't run it yet, Tracy. But from being out there,
year.
maybe. From being out there and watching everybody do it. I mean, it's a party with the bands out there and the crowds cheering people on. That's got to be part of the fun of doing the 13 or some of the shorter distances too. Is it's a little less to do, but it's still a challenge and it's a good time.
Yeah, we have 26 band stages across the course, so there's literally music every mile, live music, and especially here in Nashville, you're hearing some of the best musicians that the country has to offer. So not only the music, we also have high school cheer teams out there who are cheering along the runners. We have a ton of spectators. The course support here, people coming out all over the course. In the 16th year, they know the last Saturday of every month, or every April, is really the marathon Saturday. So those people know, they've kind of been trained to come out and support the runners.
Chris, when we talk about the challenge of running, the challenge of these races on the body, the taxing part of it, How well can St. Jude relate to that? Because obviously anybody who walks through the doors there is facing a real challenge. Does that mesh pretty well with what you guys are trying to accomplish?
It does. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about our Heroes program, which really, you know, the heroes are the fundraisers, but the true heroes are these patients. And, you know, when you talk about a marathon, think about the most common form of leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, has about a 3-year protocol. So you talk about a marathon there, the amount of weeks consecutively that you're being treated, getting chemotherapy for the disease, and it's not just the patient that goes through it, it's the whole family that goes through this journey with them. So they're all running a marathon of sorts.
Tracy, there's a lot of people, he talks about the heroes, there's a lot of different groups that go out there running for a loved one, running for a cause. What is it about the running community that's so giving?
You know, to finish something that Chris said, though, first, you talked about a marathon. You know, you think running a marathon's hard? Try chemotherapy. And, you know, I came from the performance end of the sport, and I know that I speak for everybody at the competitive group, and I think I speak for, you know, virtually anybody that will run on Saturday, whether they are raising money for St. Jude's and our heroes. That sport for sport's sake, candidly, as much fun as it might be, means nothing, but as to how it can change lives, save lives, is really everything. And adding that element to any sporting event, particularly a participatory event, it just takes it to a whole different place, both from a motivational standpoint, and it's what really drives us every day at the competitive group, being able to help people like Chris and his team.
And the great thing about running is that everybody can do it, and I know a few years back that was one of the charges, is to get kids out there and do this, and you guys have looking for the sponsor name in front of it. It's the Kids Rock Nashville, presented by the YMCA of Middle Tennessee this year. Kevin, what was the charge behind doing Kids Rock a few years ago?
Kids Rock, you know, it's, as you said, it's to get those kids in the sport early. It's a very accessible sport to a lot of people. So it's to introduce them to sports at an early age, and especially in a fun way. So, you know, not all the time are they going out and running laps. You know, a lot of kids, that's not the most fun thing, but when you can do it in a fun way, you know, we have a kind of a mini version of what we do on Saturday on Sunday. So we still have the finish line, the concert that the kids can enjoy, and all the same amenities that we give to the adults on Saturday. So it's just giving them the opportunity to get into the sport and hopefully, you know, fall in love with it and run for years to come.
You've had about 4,000 kids. You expect that many this weekend on Sunday. What are the details to that part of the weekend?
So it's at LP Field, starts and finishes at the same spot pretty much. The first race is 2 o'clock. We separate the kids based on gender and grade. So the first one's at 2, but we pretty much have a bunch of different waves that go all the way until 4. So the kids are, you know, it's a mile for the first graders to the 7th graders. The kindergartners do a half mile.
Do I have it correct that this is actually a program that they start before Sunday, and they do, I don't know how long it goes, but they do a big chunk of it kind of on daily or weekly increments to get to that final mile or half mile?
Correct. So a lot of it's done through the schools. We work closely with the local schools and the teachers. So a lot of times they'll do their first 25 miles leading up to the race in school, and then they'll finish that last mile of their marathon with us on Sunday.
Pretty special moment. Tracy, in terms of the kids race, how unique is that to Nashville and the popularity?
It is actually the 3rd largest kids race in America. Over 45,000 by the end of this weekend will have run it here in Nashville. And it started with just 35 kids in its first year on the finish line. And just to see that happen, and it's fun, sure, but it's also serious business in this world that just keeps getting fatter and fatter and fatter, including me. And you know, how do we fight childhood obesity? How do we create a program that will keep them healthy, get their parents to participate with them, and keep the whole family healthier without them necessarily knowing it. So there's a reason behind the footsteps.
Have you seen success in that, in getting parents and children together out there? Do you have any tangible proof? I mean, I'm sure it is, but are there tangible numbers behind it?
You know, it's interesting. You'll see a whole bunch of folks that will race on Saturday, and they'll be back out there with their kids on Sunday. So in all likelihood, they got their kids involved. But then you'll see, and particularly in other cities and often in the inner city, you will see kids getting their parents out. And it's really cool to watch that and see the reverse taking place. And you see it more and more often. It's sort of had an interesting byproduct that pretty much for the second graders and down, for a safety purpose, we don't really let them leave the area without a parent that has a matching bib number. And many parents just find, well, the simplest way to see my kid at the end is to run with them. And so that's sort of how it started. But no, the family that runs together stays together.
Chris, it's hard not to see the synergy between kids going out there trying to get healthy by running and what you guys have is a strong mission statement over there at St. Jude in Memphis, and that race and just all it means pulling it together.
Absolutely. You know, the events like this help us really lead the way that the world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer. You know, currently the survival rate for childhood cancer is 80%. It was 20% in 1962 when St. Jude Children's Research Hospital opened. Our doctors and researchers feel like they can get that to 90% by the end of the decade. You know, they're not going to stop until no child dies from cancer. And I think this real special thing about St. Jude is everything that's learned at St. Jude is shared freely with the worldwide medical community. And it's neat to see kids and other runners helping make all that possible.
Do me a favor and do everybody at home a favor. I think a lot of people hear the name St. Jude and they know pretty much the overview of what it's about. When did St. Jude start? What was the initial mission statement, and how has it grown, much like this marathon has grown over the years?
Right. So 1962 is when St. Jude Children's Research Hospital opened. The late entertainer Danny Thomas founded St. Jude. It was really a promise that he had made early in his career that he was kind of struggling entertainer, and he said a prayer to St. Jude Thaddeus, the patron saint of hopeless and lost causes, and he was feeling pretty hopeless about that point. And he said, "Show me my way in life and I'll build you a shrine." And that shrine is St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. And the advances that have happened at St. Jude through the years are nothing short of amazing and miraculous, but it's all only possible because of the support of the public. 75% of the funds that make St. Jude happen come from the public. It has to be raised, and that's been the model from day one. Danny never wanted our families to have to worry about how they're going to pay, because they really need to be focused on their children. And because of the model that he set in motion there, those first days in 1962 when the hospital opened, we have what is now a worldwide leader in this field, and it's a specialty hospital. We're not, if your child falls and breaks their arm, they're not going to take them to St. Jude. We treat children with cancer and diseases of the blood and infectious diseases there at St. Jude. And again, we take everything, we share it freely across the world.
We talk all about the numbers of this race being 16 years old and 30,000 people and the kids coming. I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you give me some of the numbers in terms of numbers of kids that have gone through there or go through in a year?
Sure.
and some of the monetary dollars so people at home know what you're dealing with?
Yeah, we treat about 8,000 kids every year at St. Jude. Again, it's that effect that we have, ripple effect that we have, that makes it so special, though, because 175,000 kids worldwide are diagnosed with cancer each year. We obviously can't treat all of them in Memphis at St. Jude, but what we can do is export the findings, and so that's one part of it. As far as the numbers, the money that it costs, this year it will cost more than $800 million to operate St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so again, it's events like this, it's the support of the public that really makes that possible.
We're talking the St. Jude Country Music Marathon, back for its 16th year, coming up Saturday morning. We've got to take a break. We'll come back. Much more to get to here tonight, so stay with us. You're watching SportsLine on News Channel 5+.